just want to be loved, I just want to help, but it was either for drugs or it's for money, so I was never really going to feel good, or, for a moment, and then like the addiction, it'll have you feeling good for a moment, and then slap bang, you'll be on the floor. And so when my mum was in the height of like her treatment and stuff, and we could see she was dying, you'd have thought that would snap me out of it, but in fact it just drove me down even further. And there's sometimes that I'm not feeling great about, because those were a sort of like last years of my life, and I was just like in a massive addiction. And then my mum passed away when she was 47. And when she passed away, I just hit rock bottom, and didn't really know where to turn to, so I just turned to the drugs, didn't I? Even more, taking them every day, all day, starting to take other drugs. I tried ketamine, GHB, which is a date rape drug. It's like, why do you want to take that? I was going out on a Thursday, it started, and I was going out partying. I'd go Leeds, Manchester, wherever I'd be going, and people were just taking advantage of me left, right and centre. Like, there's been times where I've been assaulted, and because of being so heavily under the influence and stuff, like what can you do about it, really, when you're so far gone. But after my mum passed away, she passed away in February 2012, and it was in 2013, sorry, and it was a real heavy time. I went down to I lived in Bolton at the time. I was going down to the town every day, drinking, just give me all the drinks, and I just didn't care. I was sat in Wetherspoons one day and I just lit up a big fat joint, and I was just like, I don't care, I hate the world, everything's bad. And this bloke turned to me and he went, you want to stop doing that? I was like, yeah, you want? And he just said, you want to stop doing that? And then out of his pocket he pulled the police badge. It was an undercover copper, so I was just like, oh Lord. Well, I probably didn't say Lord, I probably said so many expletives. But praise the Lord, he's changed my mouth and I will speak. So I'd had a boyfriend around about that time, because what my mum said to me on her deathbed was, I just want you to find love, Sam. Somebody that loves you like I love you. And I'm like, at the time, I thought, well, that just doesn't exist, does it? No different now, but... And so I was just trying to find somebody, and then I found this boyfriend, and that was another harsh lesson, because like on the day of my mum's funeral, he'd come down to the funeral. He brought two mates with him. They were dressed like they'd just come off the estate, and I thought, who brings your mates to your mum's funeral? Like, this is a bit weird. And then halfway through my mum's the memorial service afterwards, said, right, if you want to lift back, you'll have to come now. And on that journey back home, he said, these two are staying at your house. So I was like, what on earth is going on here? And then when I got back, I realised that my TV wasn't there and some other things were missing. I was like, where's that? He was like, oh, I've put that in cash generator. I needed money for the drugs. And I was just like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing? And that's what led me to be in that Wetherspoons, to see that copper. And they kind of just sat and spoke to me and almost ministered to me. And, were saying it's not the life that you want to lead. So I escaped that boyfriend, but he ended up breaking into my flat and stealing my mum's rosary beads, actually, and tried to ransom them back to me for money. But I got them back. I got them back without giving him money. So we'll just leave that one there. So then I kind of like I was really lost, really lost. I was so broken, but I knew that I didn't want to live that life. I knew that I was going to die if I just carried on. I was having nosebleeds, I was having palpitations in my heart and stuff, but it still didn't stop me. Not yet, anyway. And I started to go to spiritual church because I thought, I know, I'll go and speak to these people, I'll connect to my mum, and they'll give me messages. And I just love my mum so much. I just wanted to just keep a contact with her. I just wanted to just be with her, and I just wanted to hear from her, and I just wanted to feel that love. And so I started to go to all these different spiritual churches, and it became a thing where I was going like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to all these different ones. And sometimes they'd be telling me things like, things that nobody else knew. And at the time, I was like, oh, wow, yeah, they're really speaking to me, Mum. This is amazing, I love it. And so I found some sort of peace in that, but it didn't satisfy me. It didn't hit the spot. And so my dad rang me and he said, Samantha, I'm moving to Wales. Now, me and my dad had never really got on too well. But I promised my mum when she died, she said, Samantha, don't leave your father alone. So I was like, oh, why did I make that promise? Why? I'll tell you why, because I love my mum so much, because she was so unconditional and she'd have done anything for me, despite anything I'd ever done in my life. She just loved on me. And so she was just super. So anyway, so my dad says, I want to move to Wales, back to Wales, because that's where my mum's buried. And so I moved back to Wales with my dad, and I started to go to spiritual churches. Me and my dad started getting messages. But for some reason, I started to look at the people that were in these churches, and I was like, Dad, that bloke's a demon. And I could see this unrest in people, and it was just like, oh no, I don't like that. I'm like, how are these people coming in here if it's so love and light and that? I couldn't wrap my head around that. And then I met a boyfriend, and he said to me, he said, oh, you like ghosts, didn't you? I said, yeah, I like speaking, I like going to the mediums and that, sometimes I hear things in my head. And I've ended up going to, we've ended up starting to do paranormal investigations, going to abandoned buildings, literally seeking demons, going looking for them. And I did that for 4 years. And during that 4 years, I've had experiences from the dark side that I can't. It's just you just can't make it up. I know the last one I was in a mental asylum, an old broken down mental asylum that's not up and running, and I just felt this horrible energy in the corner, and I just knew something was coming, and this energy had hit me, and I've kind of passed out with it, and so I had to get carried out the building, and the people I was with started to panic because my face had changed, my voice had changed, different things were going on, and they were like, oh, you've been possessed and stuff like this. And at the time, I wasn't too worried because I was all love and light and I'm not letting it in, and all of this sort of stuff. But then I've ended up stopping doing paranormal investigations. Believe it or not, I was going around abandoned buildings with cocaine in my pocket, so I'm in these scary situations, and I'm just going for a wee round the corner, but what I was really doing was getting the wrap out of my pocket going, and basically I was just asking for trouble, and so I've ended up ending that relationship because it just wasn't good. The guy was a decent, good-hearted guy, but I knew I didn't want to do chasing demons anymore. Not in that respect. I didn't know I was going to be here. Do you know what I mean? But so I've ended up ending that relationship, And then maybe a year after that, I got into another relationship, which was the one that absolutely brought me to my knees, which led me to God. Or God came and found me in the wilderness. I didn't understand why I couldn't be loved or why somebody didn't love me, and so I tried to do everything, look after people, but it was still leading to abuse. And I was with somebody that was very dark in nature, and after a couple of years, it came out actually that he was on the sex offenders register, and he was a paedophile. And obviously I was too old, so I was probably like the cover story. And so I ended up homeless through that relationship because he'd stopped paying rent. So I was homeless for 6 months. I'd even lived in a tent with my dog, and I just couldn't wrap my head around it because, I'd had a good heart, or so I thought. And that led me to just being so broken and on my knees. And I just remember just like crying out and asking for help. And then 2020 came, the whole COVID lockdown, and I just felt like my family had the jab, but I felt something saying to me, "You're not to have that. You're not to take that." And then there was a moment, a period of time of like ostracizing, where people couldn't understand why I was making that decision, but I knew that I needed to make that decision. And during that time, I started to have like visions or be pointed in a direction of, you need to look at this. And there was a music concert, and I didn't even listen to this music. I didn't know the artist, but the artist was called Travis Scott, and there was a concert that was on, and a lot of people died, and there was strange things happening on the stage, and I just knew that it was demons, and they were trying to open portals, and they were doing sacrifices, they were holding the people up, they were doing weird chants, and I was just like, oh, this is weird. Like, why am I getting this? And just feeling a bit strange by it. But then my dad said to me, "What do you want for Christmas?" Because he asked me every year because he didn't want to get me something I don't like, or, which I think's blessing, that's nice of him. And so this one year, 2021, I said, "I want the Bible." And he went, "You what? You want the Bible?" So I said, "Yeah, I want the Bible." He said, "What do you want that for?" I said, "Because I need to confirm stuff. There's stuff in there that's happening that and I just need it." So he got me the Bible, which is this one here. And God bless me, Dad. So I didn't start at the beginning, and I didn't start at the Gospels. I flipped straight to Revelation. And I started looking through Revelation, and as I started to look, and I started to look at the times that we're in, it started to hit me, and I was just like, we're in this time. And I started to speak to people about God, and I started reeling stuff off to people, and they were just like, "Oh, shut up." And then I said to him, I started to say to people, "Listen, I need to be baptised. I need to be baptised. Will you baptise me in the river?" Because God had given me a vision in 2022 that I was to be baptised in the river where I lived in Bethesda. And I was just like, "Will you baptise me?" And they were like, "No, that's a religious thing. You need to go down the religious. I said, "No, that's a lie. Jesus says you can be baptised in the river, and as long as you believe, you can be baptised." So still nobody had baptised me. So one day I was pacing in the living room, and I was thinking, I don't know what to do. And then the Lord just put on me Baptist. So I was just like, Baptist, yeah, maybe that's where I go to get baptised. So I picked up Google on my phone, and I just put in Baptist, and it came up with there's a service on in 17 minutes, and I was just like, oh, I don't know, that's a bit close that time, I don't know about that. And so I Googled how long it would take me to get there, and it took me 16 minutes to get there, so I was like, oh, there's enough time. But then I had a look at myself, and I was like, oh, you've got your pyjamas on, you've got your slippers on. And then I remembered in the word it says, or not necessarily in the word, but don't worry about what you shall wear. So I was just like, right, all right, geez, off I go, and I get in the car and I go to the Baptist church, and I go in, and they all notice me because it's one of the same people every time, every week and stuff. So they're like, oh, fresh meat, hello. And so I've gone in and I started to speak to him, and when I said to him, I've had a vision, I'm to be baptised in the river, he went, a river? Oh, why would you want to do that? We've got a nice warm pool because God's given it to me, like I've had. And then I was kind of looked at, and I felt like they was looking at me like I was some sort of witch. And I was just like, oh, this feeling doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like Jesus. Like it doesn't feel like what the book's been telling me. So anyway, I continued to go, I continued to worship and stuff. And so they're like, if you want to get baptised, you've got to do this course, you've got to do that course, here, jump through this hoop here, jump over this one here. And I was just like, this is not really Jesus, like what's going on here? But I ended up connecting with a couple of people in that church, because there are some beautiful, beautiful souls in there that just love Jesus. So roll on 2024, I seen this flyer about an event that was going on at a Miracle Cafe, and it was I was like, oh, I'm going to go to that. So I'd asked my friend, I said, will you come with me? And they thought it was a drum and bass event, so they were like, yeah, I'll go to that. So they got to my house and they've gone, what's this about? I said, oh, it's a healing and deliverance thing. I think I need healing and delivering. So no, I'm not going to that. So me being the kind soul I am, I was like, I knew there was no buses. So instead of going to that event, I took that friend back. And then not long after that, I get a message from the lady from the church, and she says, Sam, have you seen this? They're doing baptisms in the river in Bethesda. And I was like, what? I'm not crazy. This is amazing. That's it. And so I got in contact with Nina, who's from Open Heavens Cafe, or she got in contact with me, and she says, Sam, are you coming for Bible study, or will you come Bible study on the Friday, because we're due to get baptised on the Sunday? So I've gone, yeah, sure. So I've gone to the cafe, I've turned up, and we're there, and we're all gathered, and we're reading the Bible, and we're reading verses each, and so we're going around in a circle. And I thought, oh, this is lovely, isn't it? This is nice, feels cozy in here. And I had to leave at 8 o'clock, but we'd not noticed what time it was, and then Nina's gone, Sam, it's 8:08. Can we pray for you before you leave? So I said, yeah, not knowing what was coming. So I stood up, and I stood there, and I was surrounded. I can't even remember who it was that stood around me, but they were around me. They had their hands out, and I thought, oh, I've never had this before. And then they began to pray for me, and very, very quickly it felt like I'd been hit by lightning. I was on the deck, and I was beginning to writhe about, like, sliding across the floor, and I didn't know what was going on. But they're just praying for me, and they're praying hard. I was coughing, spluttering, throwing up. I don't know what they were saying to me, but what I knew, what they were doing was casting stuff out of me, and it was like having snakes coming up my legs, coming out. They were fighting, they didn't want to come out. And then after a little battle, I was like, and this voice came into my head and said, if you're not going to let it out of your mouth, it's coming out anyway. And then the next thing that proceeded to happen was I was weeing all over the floor. And these people that were praying for me were getting covered in my wee, and I'm just thinking, are these mental? They're getting covered in my wee and they don't care, they're still praying for me? Like, what's going on here? And so it was a super powerful deliverance, and when it had finished and the stuff that was coming out on that day came out, I was like, oh, Lord. But I felt no shame, no embarrassment, and I just felt loved.
Amen.
And for the first time in my life, I was like, I felt so at rest, and so just wrapped and loved and comfortable. Nina went off, she came back and she went, "There's some clean clothes for you. I've got a bag, put your wee clothes in there." And literally, I've got wee soaked clothes in a bag, but I'm like, "Oh, thanks so much, yeah, that was wonderful, that was lovely, it's great, yeah, cheers." And literally, I went skipping down Bangor High Street, like, honestly, like I was on drugs, but I wasn't. It was crazy. And so that was, I got baptised on the 1st of June 2025, so I'm not even, I'm just at the beginning of my journey, but God has used me so powerfully already. I give him all the thanks and all the praise, and I just, since he saved me and came for me in that wilderness, I've never felt a love like it. Before, I was grabbing at crumbs on the floor that people were throwing, going, "You can have that." And now I'm just like, "I don't like crumbs. I am loved. I am saved. I am redeemed. I am a child of God." And so, the last 12 months has been wild, absolutely wild. And that first deliverance wasn't the end of it. Like, I was still carrying resentment in my heart and a bit of hate in my heart there. Because I'd moved up. The second I was baptised, that week I was moving out of that area because I could no longer live in the house that was creating oppression still, because it was where I'd lived with the paedophile, all the darkness that had gone on. So I moved 45 minutes away. And what happened there was, God taught me a little story about my heart posture. And my next door neighbours, they were getting on my nerves. The old lady was coming in my garden, she was cutting the heads off my flowers. I gave her a telling off. And then one night I was just like, "Oh, you're not who you think you are sometimes, you." And so I started to ask God to work on that. And then I began, like it says in the Bible, to love thy neighbour. And once I started to do that, I was then set free from the resentment and the hate that was in my heart. And so God then began to use me, and I believe that I was always meant to be a demon slayer. And that's why he's used me and let me go through all of that path, so I understand what we're working against. And like Charlie said before, I won't give up. I've got the authority to stamp on snakes and scorpions, because Jesus says so. And so I just like to thank you all for your time and your ears, and may God place a blessing on each and every one of you in it.
Was that good or was it good? Pure and raw. Do you know the great testimonies when they're like that, just pure and raw? I love them testimonies. Pure and raw, as it is. As it is.